And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to the Sabr 2A show. Hopefully, you guys are having a great night today. Today's guest is a very special person. His name is Derek, and he is part of the. Let him know, Derek, what you do.
Uh, Hi, I'm Derek, president of the Kids S.A.F.E Foundation. We're a nonprofit based in Oregon, so we teach firearm safety and accident prevention to kids.
Okay, man. And explain to the people pretty much what you teach the kids. Just a brief intro while I do something and try to get more people
Okay.
to watch.
Okay, so since our founding back in 2016, we've raised 25,000 kids in 5 states, and we've taught them, what to do if they ever come across an unsecured firearm, right? So, the goal of our organization is to teach, facts over fear. And, we have one thing we have to realize is, we have over 425 million guns that they know of in this country. And so they're not going anywhere. And so it's our goal to educate and empower the next generation to make sure that they're safe and we lower those statistical accidents. That's our goal.
Correct. And right now, I tagged your link tree on the
Okay.
comments. So if you guys
Okay.
want to know more about what he's doing and the type of work he does, check out that link. For my Instagram people, we are live at this moment. We have Derek. He's doing so much stuff for the kids, especially for 2A, Pro 2A, American citizens, for the people that love to the Second Amendment pretty much. We shall not be infringed. Check it out. Thank you. All right, let me end that real quick. All right, man. So let's get this started.
Okay.
Um, the reason I asked you to be here was because I believe your stuff popped out and I started seeing what you do. And I was really surprised that you were actually teaching kids at a young age. I mean, it's common, but my culture, coming from the background that I come from, I'm a first generation American. My mom and my dad, they immigrated over here from Mexico, um, around the 80s. My dad has been here way before my mom. He actually went to high school here, so my
Oh,
dad knew a
cool.
little bit more of actual the American culture, right?
Hmm.
I'm gonna give you guys a little backstory about my mom and dad, and hope that way you could kind of understand where I come from. So I remember my dad used to work here. He used to go to high school and then used to work. So when he would go back to Mexico, my dad, we're from California. So if you know the typical California type of dress back then in the probably early 80s, early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, it was Levi's, right?
Yep.
501s, Vans, the slip-on Vans or the regular, just the regular original Vans, right? And I remember he would always just hang out at the corner in the place he's from with one of those big boombox, the giant ones that have like strobe lights and everything. And he'll be blasting music. And I remember my grandma used to tell my mom that my dad was like, he never changed his clothes. He was always wearing the same pants because they were Levi's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So then they got together. He brought my mom over, and we started living in a. It was not a good area at that time. I believe it was about the late '90s. No, early '90s. And where we live in, it's a big Latino community, right? And at that time, there was a lot of gang activity, especially where we lived, because you had Colors, Blood In, Blood Out, American Me, uh,
Hmm.
all the all the stuff Hollywood pushed around that time. That's what was going on. And I remember the first time I saw an actual gun. I believe it was a 32, right? And they came and they sold it to my, hopefully the statute of limitations have already passed on this, but they came and I've never said this story till right now, but I'm trying to explain to you why I really love what you're doing. So they came to my dad and they sold them the weapon, right? And we're living in the city. There's no shooting range, no nothing. My father actually tested it underneath this stairwell, right? And he shot it right there. And we I was all like, the only place I've ever seen a weapon was in the movies, right? So my dad bought that gun, and as a kid, he never said, "Don't touch this. This is bad." Nothing. He didn't explain it to me. Nothing.
Yeah,
I was probably 4 years old, right? Because I still wasn't even in kinder or nothing like that. And I remember that I was looking for this weapon because of the movies, because of the
yeah,
shows. The,
yeah,
nobody, he never said this is dangerous. You're not supposed to touch this. The only thing I did find was the ammunition, and I did, but I never. Luckily, I never found the weapon because knowing me at that age, I don't. I really do not know what I would have done. Um,
yeah.
like I said, there was no safety classes. No, he didn't tell me anything. He got it because of the area we lived, and he probably got a really good deal, and that's about it, right? Um, so I wanted to do that story because I wanted to set it up to where now you could tell me what was the first thing that was done wrong in that story that you believe was done very wrong.
Well, your father shooting outside, probably in the city, would have been right there. Probably not the safest. Obviously not talking to you about the gun. Obviously, there was some interest there, and I've called it. And I have a couple of friends that use the term "gun curious," and typically it's young boys. They're getting Nerf guns or airsoft guns at a really young age. Plus, they have access to TV, so they're seeing guns.
Hmm.
That's the one thing is we're not talking about is everybody wants to ban guns, but they don't understand that we have a gun culture here. It's a culture thing. You can walk into
especially
you can walk
especially
in.
with video games now, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, and we talk about video games in our classes because there is scientific studies that prove that it does make the kids more aggressive. It also desensitizes them to violence. So moderation, also making sure those games are age appropriate, is super important for the kids. But when we're talking about the gun culture, is I can go into a Walmart and there's guns everywhere for these kids and it's at eye level, and so basically we're exposing kids at 18 months to 2 years to 3 years old to guns, and so that kind of piques the interest, right? And there's a lot of families that partake in the shooting sports, so it's very normal. And I use the term normal. Guns are normal. It's the people
Correct.
that are fearful of our guns, that's kind of abnormal to me, and I'm trying to make progress there, to kind of be welcoming and all encompassing, so they feel comfortable reaching out for help, right? And my journey is kind of the opposite of yours. I lived out
Correct.
in the country as a young kid. My dad gave me a BB gun at 4 years old, and I would be shooting. I got my first shotgun at 5 years old, which I use to this day in every class. Two shotguns at five, and it was that time of my life that kind of set me on this path to where I am today. And now I'm very blessed. I'm able to give it full circle because I'm able to give back to kids, teach them, life skills with firearms, and we can do it safely. And we show that, and that's what's hurtful right now is because social media is kind of preventing people from seeing what we're doing because they don't agree with the message. They want our kids to be afraid and fearful of guns, and I think that's counterproductive to their safety. Personally, just through my professional experiences, is our kids are curious, and so we need to have adult conversations with them. It's a way to instill safety, discipline, and respect for those firearms. And a lot of it is culturally. Obviously, my children might have a different experience than your children, and it's just because of guns are part of my everyday routine. When I get up, I put on a gun. I go about my day carrying a gun, completely legal under state law,
Hmm.
and it's for my safety. It's also for the safety of people around me, right? And so I can't put into words, like I had a situation happen to me, which started me on this journey. Right, was I was put in a position where I needed a gun to defend myself, and I didn't have a gun. And so, we went to the ground. I was on the ground rolling around with this guy. It could have been fatal if he had a blade or something that sharp. I could have died. And it was
Yeah.
that situation where I was calling for help from my girlfriend. It took her about 10 minutes to come out, which is literally an eternity in that situation. But she came out with a
Hmm.
pistol grip shotgun, pointed it at the guy, and he gave up. And so that was back in
Yeah.
2013. And so that's what's kind of, and now I have a platform. Now I can counter their narrative when it says to, oh, we need to ban guns, and I say, and there's no such thing as good people with guns. We can counter that because we didn't even fire a shot. All we did is point that muzzle at the guy, and he gave up. That's
Correct.
the whole. And so I've used that to become an instructor. I also started this really cool foundation, and it's all about preservation of our civil liberties.
I agree with everything you said. Especially the thing that people do not understand now is that the gun laws do not affect the citizen that follows the rules
Nope,
at all.
nope,
The only people that gun laws, the thing that gun laws do is hurt the person that's trying to follow the law, the person that's trying to be a good Samaritan. But a criminal is not gonna care about laws whatsoever. I mean,
nope.
we could take it back till when they alcohol was illegal. It did it stop them from drinking? No.
No,
Drug use, has it stopped anybody from using drugs? No.
no.
So the only thing that these laws are doing, and I'm gonna give you an example. I'm from California. California has strict gun laws. Has the gun crime gone down?
Nope,
No.
nope.
Chicago, New York, and that's all I gotta say. So, um, what we need to understand is that we need to teach people gun safety because guns do not harm people. People harm
Absolutely.
each other. Most of the times when people harm one another is because accidental discharges, right?
Yeah.
And especially now with social media, you'll see it where people are trying to be cool and show off their weapon, and all of a sudden you get an accidental discharge, correct?
Yeah. And
So
it, I don't typically use that term accidental, right, when I'm talking about
mm,
discharge, because unless
yeah,
that gun was a malfunction, then I would call it. I think it's important that we use proper terminology. Like, if my
okay,
gun goes bang and I didn't want to go bang, was the gun defective, or did I do something I shouldn't have done? Right.
hmm,
And because we have to hold people accountable, right? So when I say it's
correct,
negligence, it's easier for me to hold somebody accountable for their actions. It's not the gun's fault. The gun
yeah.
has no brain. It can't think for itself. It's just a tool, right? And so, prime example is what's going on with Alec Baldwin. There's more information coming out right now where he
Yeah.
directly pointed that muzzle at somebody and pressed the trigger. Okay, so that's contrary to what he said in the beginning, where he said the gun just shot itself. That's literally impossible. I don't know how many guns I
Especially with
have.
a Yeah, especially with a revolver, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how many guns I have, and they don't just magically shoot themselves. And so,
Yeah.
I think for advocates, we're advocates, right, for our 2A rights. So I think it's really,
Yeah.
really important as we use proper terminology when we're talking about this stuff, right? Because obviously we don't want to be corrupted with their terms of restriction, right? So, like, I don't call them high capacity magazines. I call them standard capacity because
Yeah.
from the factory, all of my guns have a 17 or a 30 round magazine. That's the unfortunate thing about living in California, is you don't
Mhm.
get that. You don't get that. I'm hoping the Supreme Court helps you guys, and you guys get that mag ban thrown out. And that'd be sweet.
That yeah, because they have that grandfather's thing once when you could have got. It's just like I said, it's just a bunch of. But yeah, you're right. The way I think negligence is a better word than accidental, and it's even come to light now where they're showing pictures of him with his finger on the trigger when he was saying it wasn't. So I mean,
Yeah, and I
it's
and I
crazy.
And I saw another thing today where they're actually trying to get fingerprints off the cartridge, right? The empty shell casing to find out who put it in the chamber. I'm like, are we
Correct.
trying to dance around the fact that this guy killed somebody, right? Is and that's the problem I'm having right now is there's a separate set of laws, right? There's one for you and me, there's one for politicians, there's ones for Hollywood elites, and then there's one for criminals, right? And
Correct.
we're the ones that need our firearms because we're without the armed security, right?
Yes.
Because of the policies that the politicians pass, so it's bad.
Let me ask you a question. What do you take about the thing that's going on in Florida, where I don't know if you've seen it in the news, the guy that broke into the homes and the sheriff said that it was okay to shoot him and that next time what he would prefer was for him, whoever shot that person, to come and take a safety class. That way he could learn to shoot better and next time he won't miss. What do you think about that?
Woo! That's a bold statement there, Cotton. Cotton. I agree with the sentiment. I think that's kind of I'm hoping maybe it's a maybe a like a sound clip that maybe it'll get to the criminals that maybe they should think twice about. I
Yeah.
did see a stat from Florida where their homicides and their shootings are actually down 17%, right? Because of they have a tough DA. Where I'm from
Hmm.
and where you're from is they don't prosecute. And so you have
No.
these criminals that commit gun crimes and then nothing is done. And so that
Yeah.
puts all of us in a really bad spot. And in Oregon, I could probably get in more trouble now for having a 9 millimeter handgun than I can having methamphetamine or heroin, which is insane.
Come out in
And
PLA says that sheriff rules.
absolutely, and that's the thing
Yeah.
is we need more sheriffs like that because if you look back to the Constitution, that's the only part of
Hmm.
law enforcement that's actually recognized under our Constitution. ATF's not recognized under the Constitution. Neither is the FBI, the DOJ. Those are
Correct.
all bodies. Those are all bureaucracies, right? That are doing nothing to help restore our freedoms back to the way our founding fathers intended.
Yeah, you're right. Also, I have another thing you said. You said that in California or where you're from, we would get in trouble or they won't do really nothing. Well, they will do something. They'll throw fear in people's faces, scare them, and take away more gun rights to
Absolutely.
protect us, so we could be safe. But I mean, if they're protecting us, let me bring something up to you recently that happened, and I'm pretty sure you heard about it. Remember that there was a freight train in downtown LA, a place where they know it's populated with criminals, homeless people, and they left the train full of weapons with no lock or something like that. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't. You'd think that'd be front page
Yeah.
news. So
Let's see. Come on in PLA says we need leadership that is interested in giving us power over our own lives and safety. I agree with that,
see,
man.
so I would tweak that just a little bit, right? So the
Yeah, let's see.
government doesn't give us anything, right? Our what's important about our Constitution is these rights that we have instilled as Americans, right? American citizens, they come from our higher power, right? They
Hmm.
the government doesn't do anything but either infringe or take away our rights. They don't grant us anything. And so
Correct.
it's important to know, truly, like, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, our founding fathers were, brilliant, because of, they lived under tyranny, right? And I think, do you study history much? Have you kind of
Oh
understand?
yeah, no, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm a big history buff. I love history because I tell a lot of people, history repeats itself. History is important. If you don't pay attention to history, then you're not gonna see things coming. But once you start paying attention to history and you start seeing how things start moving, you understand why it's important to not let the government control our Second Amendment. Because when they start taking away guns, when laws get tougher, we get what happened with Mussolini, right? With the
Mhm.
Italians. We get what happened Germany.
Germany.
We get what happened in Mexico. I mean, it, it's just a repeating cycle, and people do not understand that the Second Amendment was put there for the First Amendment to protect the First Amendment. So people need to really common sense, right?
Absolutely.
Who wrote that? Common
I'm not
sense.
sure.
I forget his name, but that book was what kind of started the revolutionary with with Great Britain and with
Hmm.
or England and America. So
Yep.
people need to understand that the reason that America was built was for us to be able to be free, have the right to bear arms, have the freedom of speech, and have the right to defend and protect ourselves. We do not, the cops in reality are here to protect and serve, not to,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I mean, you know? So I think it's important for us to understand our laws and understand that nothing good comes when people try to take away our weapons or our rights. If you could see what's going on in Chicago, Chicago had the strictest gun laws, right? You know what they're doing in Chicago right now? They have these machines that every time they hear a gunshot, it starts try like
Triangulate. Yep.
the correct,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and that's how they're gonna keep you safe. Well, first of
No.
all, in order for them to actually know what's going on, somebody has to get shot. That don't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It's a man. I have a good friend there in Chicago, and she's doing tremendous work. And it's sad to see. You know, you see this wonderful woman, Rhonda Zell, and she's
Mhm.
trying to do all this work to protect the citizens by encouraging proper training and all this stuff. And they've done
Yeah,
nothing to help her. They've done everything to make her, you know, her job more challenging, right? And it's done nothing to help
shot
save
spotter.
lives.
I guess it's called a shot spotter or
Shot
something like
spotter,
that.
huh?
Yeah,
Well,
something like that. But
to me, doesn't that kind of seem like a violation of your due process rights? I mean, obviously, it's illegal to shoot a gun inside the city limits, but I still have a constitutional right to unnecessary search and seizure, right? So,
correct,
I just think we've given the government too much power. I think part of the problem is
correct,
was we're apathetic and we do not get involved in the process, right? So it's easy for us to work our 9 to 5, get off work, come home and hang out with the family, do a podcast or something like that, as opposed to, write an email to our legislator, or to call a congressman, you know what I mean? Or run for office.
you
Um,
know why? Because I think they made us believe that there's a big gap between us and the people in power. We
Absolutely.
forgot that the reason that these people were elected is because we elected them. If it wasn't for us voting,
Yeah.
unless it was the last election, I mean, I don't know what happened. But I'm just saying,
I don't want to go
you
there.
know,
I
yeah,
know.
no.
I know.
That's
I
a joke.
know.
Let's see. Come out in PLA. He's a great guy, man. You guys will talking to you reminds me of the podcast I did with him. It says it gets false positives from cars backfiring, and it's far from perfect. Basically, gives the police a place to start an investigation. You see, so it's like
Well,
the thing we were talking about in Chicago.
yeah. How
Yeah,
how about
man.
we give these citizens opportunities? How about we get the failed policies out of the way, and let's give them opportunities to have a better life? How about we not glamorize violence in hip hop music? There's things that we could do differently, as because I remember, like, back when I grew up. Um,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna date myself totally, but like the late '80s, the early '90s in LA, there was a huge gang violence problem, right? And they
Correct.
had
Yes.
all these rappers. They got together and they said that we're all in the same gang. It's kind of cheesy, right? But they had all this hip
Hmm.
hop music where they're talking
Yeah.
about we're all the same. You know what I mean? It was something like that, but it was a more positive instead of everything
Way.
being about killing and women and it's just I don't know. We got to do something because
Mm,
what's happening
okay.
right now is not working.
No, and another thing. So I think I had a podcast earlier where I said something where I said, you know how they're throwing all this money on dumb things like that new law that they're giving drug addicts new pipes, new needles, new like, the stuff like that, so they could get high safely, so they could use drugs safely, right? I was
Absolutely.
talking and I was saying, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we do a program where if a gang member, something like that, gets caught with a gun, instead we give him a program where he needs to learn how to use that gun, how to safely fire that gun, because that way, look, think about it. That way, instead, a lot of the shootings and deaths that happen by gang members, they're not shooting each other. It's bystanders, right? So
Absolutely.
let's say,
Absolutely.
let's teach these guys to shoot properly, give them proper training, and hopefully, instead of shooting accidentally people that don't have nothing to do with their gang, maybe they learn to shoot each other correctly.
I
I'm
don't.
just, I mean,
No, I like the
it's,
concept. I like the
it
concept,
kind
but
of sounds, you
maybe
know?
we do it a little bit differently. Maybe these guys, especially the young ones, where they're 16 or 17, right? Well, they don't know the cause and the effect of what that bullet does to the human person, right? The human body, right? So
Correct.
maybe if
Yeah.
there's a way to explain, true violence to them in a way that they're going to understand, maybe it'll scare them, almost like a scared straight type situation. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know the,
No, you're
obviously it comes down to the root cause is, lack of opportunity. There's probably hopelessness that's involved.
no,
My
you're
heart
right.
goes out to them because I want to save every one of their kids, right? And that's
No,
what we
yeah.
do. And so every kid matters in this country, and that's why I kind of
No,
reject
for
that
sure.
that mantra that they say that everybody in the two A is racist, because that's not the case.
No,
We have the
no.
most diverse community in probably the country is our two A community.
Correct. And you know what? I think you're correct. I think a lot of the times, a lot of people do not know what guns do, the damage behind it, especially now with social media and these games, right? I'm not saying these
Hmm.
games are the cause of it, but I'm saying that certain things do numb you and make you think that it's just like a video game. I'll give you that. I'll give you this. I asked my nephew a while back. He used to play a lot of like Call of Duty stuff like that. And I said, man, have you ever like shot somebody? And he's like, yeah, all the time. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, Call of Duty, this and that. And I'm like, no, you see. And that's I think where the problem is that somebody was telling me that back in the days, like in high school or something, you know how they had like home ec, that certain places had classes where they taught you about hunting,
Yep.
weapon use and stuff like that. I don't know
Yep.
if that's true.
Yeah. I used to
Hmm.
when I was in high school here in Oregon, I used to be able to take a shotgun to school because I'd go hunting after school, and it was totally normal. We'd have shotguns in our gun racks, and we go hunting after school. It was oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's
you saw
that's really
that?
cool. Yeah, I saw that. Why can't we invest in something like that? And a lot of, like, the way I would come at it from is, obviously we have broken homes, we have
Yeah.
single parent households, and so these young men and these young women, they need some sort of guidance, and so maybe there's a way that we can get them involved in their areas and get them out away from the gangs, and teach them some life skills. Everything we do is about life skills. Today I was in a
Yeah.
local high school, and so I got to
Oh,
bring
okay.
my rifles into high school, and I got to
Mhm.
talk to the kids about civics. I got to talk to them about anti-bullying, and I got to
Mhm.
show them my rifles. And I had one kid.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to hold that. I'm like, all right, here you go. And so I showed him how to clean the rifle. And he there's a picture on my Instagram of him shouldering an AR-15 inside of a public school here in Oregon. And so
That's amazing.
yeah, and we're gonna go back next week, and we're next week is going to be gun cleaning 101, and so I'm going to bring in all of our rifles, and every kid is going to learn how to clean a rifle, and then the following
Hmm.
week we're going to go to the range and we're going to teach them all how to shoot, and
You know,
and
yeah.
good
Go ahead. Okay, so
and
I was gonna. Go ahead.
go ahead.
All right, all right. I'll start. Okay, so I was gonna like one of the reasons I like your stuff is um, a lot of the people that are probably watching this know my history. But the reason I really got more into 2A was around COVID time, right? And I remember I had gone shooting with my friends, and my son came home that day, and he saw the stuff, the pictures, and the shell casings and all that stuff, and he was asking me questions. He was very excited, and I told him, yeah, man, like if you start doing better in school or whatever, I'll take you shooting. We'll go shooting and everything. And then once I started, because I was already kind of building uh, P80s before they were illegal in California. Let's get that
Oh,
straight.
they're
Be-
illegal now.
Before they're making them where you can, you know how they have. I think I forgot how many days where they're gonna not allow them. They have to be serialized. So in order for you to buy them now, some places won't even ship to California unless you're an FFL pretty much now. So it's gonna be the same thing as pretty much now buying a gun at a gun store, right? That's what they're. I think that's that rule that Biden is trying to pass, something like that.
Yeah,
I think he passed it. I forgot how many days we have.
I
Um,
think it was an
so
ATF ruling. I don't know if it's actual law, and because the
something like
president, the president can't make law. That's what's really really important. Is he can use an executive order, but I think what he's doing is
hmm
he's directing the ATF to make a ruling, and that's
yeah,
dangerous because that we talk about the civics part of our country.
correct.
That's taking away our ability to talk to our representatives, because they're the ones that are supposed to introduce law and pass law, not the
Hmm.
ATF. And
Okay, yeah.
so that's important to know there. The president can't write law. He can write executive orders, which they can be thrown out if we have enough votes in Congress.
I guess he's saying it's a ruling slash change of
Yeah,
interpretation. Come out and kill it.
absolutely. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I wanted to get. I got more into it, right? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I want to take him to go shooting. I'm gonna build him something. So I started building. You don't know that much about 3D printing, correct?
I know a bit. I know a bit, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
actively.
So I was gonna make him this 22. It's called the bento box. It's kind of a little backpack 22, and I'm like, man, perfect thing to give him at his age. My son, at that time, he was gonna be 16, but then my son ended up passing away. So when my son passed away, that's when I got more into this, and then at the same time my stepdad had ALS, so we were taking care of him. So before even the whole lockdown situation happened, I was already kind of in lockdown in my own home.
Yeah.
Now people don't understand that when you have certain type of lockdown, it's yes, I could go out and free, but mentally it's draining. So that's
Yeah.
why I really got into the the printing stuff, because it was a way for me to cope, to distract me, and to help me get out of that space that I was in. You know.
Yeah.
So then when I saw what you were doing, man, to be honest, that's why I really it anything to do with kids nowadays, it gets me very happy and motivated to keep doing stuff. I
Well.
I started interviewing this. I'll let you speak because I'm gonna lose my train of thought. I started interviewing this young kid, man. This kid had just turned 18, young and tactical, and he does 3D printing stuff. And when I started talking to this young kid, I was so proud of him, and I told him, man, I'm so happy that you're the future, because for a while when I was looking at the future and all these kids in TikTok, man, I was scared. Honestly, I was scared.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's all I gotta say.
man. I'm first of all, I'm sorry for your loss.
No,
Like
man,
I like stuff like that
appreciate
hits
it.
me right here because like I don't know what happened, but like I always hate to hear about loss, especially because of what I do. Like seems like every time we lose a kid, I
Yeah.
get tagged, and I hate getting tagged. I
Hmm.
just I just want us to all do better, right? And we could do better if we can just make little changes in our everyday routine, right? And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean we don't need new laws. It's just we need to change our thought process when it comes to, you know, securing our firearm, right? So I mean, there's
Hmm.
good technology. We can get into our gun in less than a second if we need to, right, in a defensive manner. But also keeps it out of the hands of our kids, and
Yeah.
so 8 to 9 kids per day across the country is what we're losing, and so what we're trying to do is change that. And a lot of the
So
times it's I'm sorry.
at the moment, that's like the statistics that's going on. And
On
could I ask you a
on
question?
average,
Is it mostly because the kids don't know, or because they're going through other stuff? You think, and that's a kind of a way to. What do you think in your opinion? What's the reason behind that?
so a lot of it is you look at different states. We'll break it down by state, right? So if I go to Texas, right, a
Hmm.
parent can't carry a gun into a liquor store, right? And so what they do is the car's hot, they leave it running, they take the gun off, leave it in the vehicle, the kid gets access that way, has an accident, right? Happens all the
Correct.
time. And more than we'd like to admit. Urban environments, they might just have the money for the firearm, but they don't have money for the training because they need the firearm for self defense, because it's dangerous, and so they don't think about proper storage of the gun, also education of the kids, and a lot of kids are hurt that way. And in like my area, right, it's going to be
Yeah.
total opposite where it's going to be like show and tell. Like a young boy knows where his gun's kept, his dad's gun's kept, and he
Correct.
runs, grabs his friend, and hey, check this out. The gun goes off. It happens all the time. And so part of it is we have to, and that's why if we have these conversations about guns with our kids, and we teach them that it's not something that's taboo if done properly, right? And so that's why we're not trying
Correct.
to scare kids. Like I have 3 year olds that are shooting BB guns now, and they're getting good repetitions. They know the 4 basic safety rules, and we have kids that are 7 years old with a rimfire, and
Yeah.
they're doing really really well. So
I seen you take them like to the range and teach them that you got 3D printed flags, correct? I think you're the
I
flags
did,
for
yeah.
the
I think
rifles.
they're 3D printed, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they look, and then you also have the where you the little ammo boxes. I think those are 3D printed too,
those are
right?
3D printed. Yeah, those are great
Yeah,
because
man.
the hardest part is like divvying out the ammo, right? So I had to figure out a way
Yeah.
to make it faster. And there's this guy I found on Etsy that 3D prints them, and so that way I can
Hmm.
give out 10 rounds to each kid. And each kid loads a magazine. It's a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah, I seen
it
that.
and I just wish that the people that don't like this and are afraid of this would at least give us an
Hmm.
opportunity to show them how it works. That's all I want is you have the Shannon Watts, you have all the people that Mr. Biden himself doesn't like guns, but can we show them how this process works? And I think we might get some converts there. I have a kid that I work with that he's hyperactive, right? You brought up ALS.
Correct. Yeah.
So basically when we're on the range before he's going, like his mind is firing off in so many different directions. But when I start to walk him through the process, right, it's like it calms his nerves. It's like a Labrador on a point. It's really amazing because he
Yeah.
just shuts it all out. He gets on that rifle and he goes to work, and it's amazing. Um, and I know there's a competition shooter that also treats his ALS with the shooting sports, and so
No, I
we
think I
just need to
think
have an
it's
opportunity.
HDAD or something. ALS is the Lou Gehrig's disease.
Lou
It's the
Gehrig's, yeah,
one that yeah, it's that one that guy had in the
Parkinson's, yeah,
wheelchair for it.
yeah.
Kind of
It's
like Parkinson's,
Parkinson Shooter is
but
his name.
it's
His name's Dave. He's a great guy. He's a great
yeah.
shooter.
Okay. I think
Um,
what you're, yeah, I agree with what you're saying because The more interviews I do, then that I talk to younger kids that started shooting at a young age, the more I realize that their life is completely different than a lot of kids because first of all, they're going out more. They're not on social media that much because when you shoot a gun, you don't shoot a gun indoors unless you're like in an indoor range. But a lot of the time, you go shooting outside. It's you're around people, you're communicating. Nowadays, I think they're trying to take that away from us. They don't want us in large groups. And you remember when they did that, when we were fighting the war, right? When we were under control from the Queen, they didn't allow an amount of people to hang out together, and they always do that. They don't want a large group of people hanging out, sharing ideas,
Yep.
talking, realizing, hey man, what they're telling us is BS. So they
Yep.
keep us in small circles, and we don't get nothing coming in new. So I noticed that kids that grew up going outdoors more, shooting, doing some type of outdoor activity, have a higher chance of being better, more productive, better members of society, instead of just hanging out with the wrong crowd, trying to feel accepted. Um, it's hard nowadays, especially growing up and seeing stuff in social media that is a lie. You could be
Hmm.
whoever you want in social media. You could portray whatever you want, and that's why I started doing what I'm doing now, right? Because I want to know the people that a lot of the interviews I do are people that are pro to eight and that do printing, right? And you
Yep.
you know what? Well, I'm gonna tell you something that's amazing. A lot of us that started doing our stuff 3D printing, two-way stuff, a lot of the times, a lot of them, that's how they got into 2A. Yes, they
Really?
probably had one gun or something like that, but once they learned to print, like just knickknacks for their weapon or even parts or whatever they needed, man, they went full in, and
Yeah.
now it's the best way to have somebody be pro 2A, man. My mom hated guns. She thought the only person that carried a gun was a criminal, like I said, or a police officer. Now she's always asking me about things and, oh, what are you doing? How do you do it? Like little things here, which is nice. I have nieces and nephews, and
Okay.
I keep everything away from them. But you know what? I tell them, hey, if you find something, don't touch it. Go to an adult, let him know. You know, because I think as kids, when you tell them, no, don't do this, and don't give them an explanation, it's like a way for them. They're gonna do it. If you tell a kid it's hot, he's gonna touch it, so he figures
Absolutely.
out it's hot.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest mistake. And I'm glad you brought that up. Like, so one thing I've noticed about the 3D printing is pretty cool. You can use different colors. And I
Yeah,
think, for your position, like you have this platform, is let's talk to all our guys that are doing the printing and making sure that if we are printing these guns, is we do have conversations with the kids and show them like this is a gun, but this is not what a typical gun might look like. So we got to practice safety at all times, right? Because if we come
yeah,
across one that we think is not a real gun and it can go bang, then so that's how people can get hurt. So
yeah. I was trying to look for something because I had a patch. I don't know if you heard. For a while, they had this the Lego. Somebody was gonna do a collab with Lego, I think. Okay, so I know I see you rolling your eyes, but I mean, it's a cool gun, man. It was a cool gun. The thing is that people started pushing that what if a kid got into it and this and that, and this is where a lot of us started saying, well, if it gets to the hands of your kid, then you're the one that is at fault because you're not teaching your kid the correct way to handle a gun. You're not giving them safety rules, and you're a jackass for not explaining to your kid, hey, it looks like a toy, it might be cool, but you
absolutely.
gotta learn respect. I'm gonna tell you a little quick thing about me. Growing up, and I think a lot of us growing up around like my age, I'm like mid 30s. There, people know my age. Damn, that kind of sucks. People thought I was like 20 something. No, I'm kind of 30 now. Okay, so they didn't really teach us about financial stuff at school at all, man. Nothing. I remember I used to see my dad stressed out about bills and stuff like that, and I used to tell him like, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing? This and that." He's like, "This is for grown-ups, blah blah blah." Well, if he would have sat there, man, and told me, "Look, this is how much I have to pay for you, your sister, your other sister. This is how much you guys eat. You guys, I'm going bald because I'm just, But
Yeah,
if you would have taught me that, man, I would have not been a father at the age of 16. Yeah, 16. Because I was a teenage dad. Because nobody taught me that, man. And I, in my head,
absolutely.
said, oh, I'm going to be a better father than my dad. I'm going to start a family. My firstborn was planned, man. We were two teenagers planning a
Wow.
child.
Wow.
Because, like you're saying, certain people don't teach their kids certain stuff. You treat your child like he's a child, but kids nowadays are growing up so fast. They're so
Absolutely.
smart. You're not
Yep.
supposed to tell them everything. Like, oh, your mom is this or that, but you're supposed to let them know, hey, look, this is going on. Don't do this. Wait till you get at a certain age, and especially in certain cultures, it's very taboo to talk about sex at an early stage. But if you don't teach your kids, you're gonna get this weirdo at. I'm just gonna stay quiet. Uh, you know what's going on with the library type of stuff, but come on,
Hmm.
man, you don't want that. So that's why. Could you let the viewers know why did you get into teaching kids gun safety, and what's the reason behind it, man?
Well, I told you kind of briefly about my story about the altercation I had. So I was a new
Yeah.
instructor. It was back in like 2014 ish. Basically, I had a higher power speak to me. Right? It was I believe it was God. He told me that
Yeah.
I had to protect the kids, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. It was in the middle of the night. I was working a graveyard shift, and there was this flash of light. And it was like I have to protect the kids. I know I'm going to sound like a weirdo, but it was something. I got off work at 6 a.m. that morning. I slept until about 8 a.m. So 2 hours of sleep. Got on my computer like I was possessed. Like, what does protect the kids mean, right? And I was a new instructor, and I was working with parents that were kind of. I was concerned about a potential accident inside the home, and so I started
Mm-hmm.
looking at programs. There was one by the NRA, but being from Eugene, Oregon, I was concerned about how well received it'd be, and so I just set out to start developing my own. Right, I said I can, how hard this can be, right, and so it
Yeah.
took 2 years of hard development, and I had lots of free classes that I gave to my friends' kids, and just to figure out what worked and what didn't work, and a lot of trial and error. And then in
Correct.
2016 we became a nonprofit, and now we're 6 years in and reached 25,000 kids, all from that idea. It was an idea, so if I can, if there's anything that anyone can take away from this conversation tonight, is everyone can do their part, right? I'm just doing my part,
Yeah.
and so I'm hoping that I can influence others to say, what can I do in my area? How can I get involved? What can I teach someone something in my area to further our rights? And one thing that's really stuck with me over the years is it's not my responsibility to protect your rights. Okay, it's your responsibility, and you being a first generation immigrant, or American, right? I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful
Yeah.
that you're here shoulder to shoulder with me on this journey, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful to have you here. You know,
No,
so
you're right.
that's where
Yeah.
I'm at and what I want to do. So I want to keep going
No,
until I
man.
reach every kid.
I believe you because, like I said, I also believe in God. I'm gonna say it. I mean, people know how I am with the way there's a saying that I really love. It's by Emiliano Zapata, and it says, "I rather uh, die on my feet than live on my knees." So I mean, my show is about Pro 2A, and I'm gonna talk what I want to talk because I'm tired of us having to censor each other. I'm tired of that PC. politically correct BS type of stuff, because America was not dead. America
No,
was
no, no.
not having to watch what you say and not offending the next person. It's about, yes, I will respect you. But if you disrespect me, if you talk bad about me, I'm gonna let you know, hey man, that's not right. But if you're not bugging me, or bugging my family, or the kids, I'm cool with you. But like I said, yeah, what you said, I believe it. I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I believe we're all here for a reason, and there's no coincidence in this life. This life is short. We need to enjoy it, and we need to follow through. And whatever we're doing, we gotta do it with a purpose and with meaning, because the
Yeah,
next day is never promised. You know.
absolutely.
So, um, yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You wanna talk
Another,
about? Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. So one thing I
Go ahead.
wanted
Oh,
to touch on is what you're doing with 3D printing. One thing when we talk about history is it's been normal for American citizens to build guns since before we were actually a country, right? And so we
correct.
have a rich history, and that's how the Revolutionary War started. Is because the British kept trying to ban, and they would come in, they would confiscate the guns that the colonials were building, and the last around April 19th 19 or 1775 is when the battle of Lexington at Concord is they came for the powder, right? And the colonialists just made a stand, and that's what led us to today, right? And so we have a rich history of building our firearms. And so what you're doing, what you're using technology, I love that, right? And it
Yeah.
just like they always say, well, our rights don't, they do change. Like just because they had muskets back in the day doesn't mean I should have an AR-15, right? Well, unfortunately, technology would prove otherwise. I mean, are you writing to me on a paper and quill, or are you using your iPhone? You know what I mean? So it's
Correct.
so
Now, another thing, man. Uh, if you guys really see the news, if people actually see the news, I don't watch the news, but whatever I do see sometimes, a lot of these bad guys, they have weapons that are, they have drums, auto sears, they have,
yeah,
they have uh, hollow points. The type of stuff they have is way uh, crazier than whatever you nowadays would be able to have. Some of these guys have vests, shields, you
yeah,
know. So now we can have that. What are they gonna, like California? We have to. It's 10 round mags on everything, but these guys have a 50, 60 drum. They have a
yeah,
30. It's like, it don't make sense, and that's what I was trying to say. These laws, they don't they hurt me and you, people that are trying to follow the rules, people that are trying to be responsible citizens, but they're not hurting the people that don't care about this. And that's where people need to understand, well, why do you need that? What did Biden say about a cannon or something like that?
well, actually,
when
it's legal. He's totally wrong. It's
Yeah,
legal.
come
You
on,
know,
man.
and that's the thing is there's a couple things that I want to cover. Is obviously banning my guns or your guns will never solve a
Is
single gun crime, because we're not going to commit a gun crime, right? and
correct.
and so that's the problem that I have here is and why why I hate being lumped into with criminals, right? And I feel like at
Yeah,
this point it's illegal for me to be lawful, right? It's almost impossible for me to be lawful. So I have to be responsible, right? Because there's so many laws that they keep passing that there's no matter what I do, I'm going to be breaking the law, unfortunately. And so now I have to be responsible, right? So I have to make sure my guns kept where I can control it and keep it safe, and so it's tough.
yeah. I was talking to somebody and I was asking him a question, right? Because he does stippling, right, on lowers and stuff like that. And I was asking him, hey man, So in order for me to do stippling, like on the grips and stuff like that, do I have to have an FFL? And he says, yes, depending on the weapon that you're going to do the stippling on, you are, because it has to be, if it's serialized and things like that. He says,
Hmm.
if you get a P80 and it's brand new out of the box, it hasn't been drilled or nothing like that, you don't need an FFL.
Yeah.
If it's, I forgot what else he said, like a SIG, I think, because they're not serialized, I forget. And he said,
Oh
like, but
yeah,
you know
because the
what,
fire
man?
control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And he's like, but you know what, man? The ATF, I forgot who he said they brought back from the dead and have them just throwing darts at a wall, and that's how they make their laws, because they never make sense. And I totally agree with that. Please don't shoot my dog. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, please don't shoot. I love my dog. Um,
Hmm.
that's tough. I mean, what a tough job. Is to
Yeah.
be universally hated by law-abiding Americans. It's because you shoot dogs, and it's not a dig at the ATF. I'm sure they're lovely people. I just, I have enough infringement on my life. I can't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Like
I
I know
went
what they're
fishing and
I know what they're doing now. It hasn't worked. It's never worked since the 30s, right? So they started the NFA in 1934, and then they went to 86, and then they went to the 90s, and like people are still dying, and they're
it,
dying in record numbers. Like when are we going to sit back and realize that maybe every town and Moms Demand Action, all these anti-gun shills, like they're
oh,
not helping.
wait, I was gonna ask you a question. So
Yeah.
do you get any beef from
Oh
mom's
yeah.
demand
Oh
action?
yeah.
They don't
Oh
like
yeah.
you?
Oh no, they don't like me.
What?
No, I get a lot of death threats. I get a lot, because people don't like it. People don't like the fact that what we're doing is working, right? And so I'm very careful, and it's crazy. It's crazy that is the people that are so tolerant, quote unquote tolerant, would wish death upon somebody to prevent them from saving lives. Like what's wrong with this picture, right? And
Yeah.
we just need to sit back. We all need to just come together, and people need to listen, and then and we all come to some kind of agreement and understanding, because what's happening right now, unfortunately, it's not going to work. It's never going to work. I don't think it's designed to work, because it's a
No.
huge revenue stream. It's what it is. Gun
Yes.
control. um so
It, it's designed to have people pay fines. People pay to own certain weapons. As long as you have a certain tax stamp and all of that, you're good. It's
yeah,
let's see. Come out and PLA says they do not want people educated in guns because education would reduce casualties and they need bodies to stand on and scream their
absolutely.
agenda.
Hundred
Yep,
percent, a
that's
hundred percent, and
yeah,
and it's going to come down to an educated populace that's going to finally have enough and say, no, that's not what happens, and so that's why educating kids at a young age and getting them involved and showing them that they have options. That's why we should be investing our money, and it's not like throwing more bad money after good, and so like our kids deserve an option too. Like with in your
yeah,
state, I go to California, there's no
yeah.
education for those kids are so vulnerable when we go into California, and they're thankful for the opportunity for education, because they don't think about it down there, because every gun that they have is potentially illegal because of a pin stroke. And what they do is they keep taking away from you guys, so they'll start here and they keep moving it this way till what you had was legal 3 years ago now isn't legal because of a pen stroke,
Yeah,
because they can't figure out why people are still dying, and they're like, oh well, we'll just
no.
do this. And so what that does is the parents don't talk about their guns with the kids, because they're afraid that their kid will go to school and tell maybe the teacher, and then they're going to have the law enforcement show up at their house. Like it happens,
Okay,
it literally
no,
happens all
it
the
does.
time.
Let me tell you something real quick, okay?
Yeah.
So where I'm from, like I said, it's pretty much a lot of Latinos, right? Now, a lot of these Latinos, I'm not gonna question their immigration status, but all of a sudden they started doing this thing at schools where, in order for you to go to an assembly, go to see your kid or whatever, they needed your ID, and they were scanning your ID and putting it in their system, right? And I went like, why are you guys doing this? And he's like, oh, this and that. So I'm like, could I get a paper? They gave me a paper, and in the paper it pretty much says that it's if you don't have one, you don't have to do it. So I kept telling them, I'm not gonna do it. It says on the paper,
Absolutely.
and they're like, no, well then if we're gonna, and it says you guys either escort me or give me a name pass and I'll wear it. And they're like, no, we just gonna scan your ID. And
Nope.
I'm like, where's my information going to? Oh, we have a system. And I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell you
They're
the truth.
building a
I
database.
work I work IT. My son has told me that they're able to hack into your guys' account because the teachers leave the passwords and the things, so they know how to get into your account. So if my son and other of these kids are able to, I don't feel comfortable having my information. Now another thing, they want parents to be more positive in school. Like I said, these parents don't have IDs because they're either illegal and they probably have a permit or something, and they're gonna be scared and they're just pushing the family to get together and be part of their child's uh, meetings, anything to do with school, uh, plays, whatever. They're building a database. They're not letting them. Now they're trying to ask questions like, oh, what did you happen? Oh, let me tell you guys another thing. I had never had a county worker at schools. I went to schools here. I went to public schools. Last time that I went to my daughter's school, they have a county worker, a person that works for the county, not for the school district, for the county, which means that this person is pretty much like a social worker. So if your son or daughter goes to this person, tells them anything, this person now has the right to report you to CPS, which is Child Protective Services. Now your whole house is turned upside down because your kid doesn't know better. He just wants attention that somebody's giving them, and because maybe a lot of these people are too busy working, they're too tired, they can't communicate with the kids, they don't understand the culture. This is crazy. It's
What you
sad,
know,
man.
what you have to understand is it's by design, and they don't want you raising the kids. They want to raise the kids. That way they can push any kind of agenda. They can get them to vote any kind of way they want them to vote, and so,
Did you
yep,
read that?
yep.
I
Yeah,
can. I'm not.
absolutely. And so here in Oregon, what they're trying to do is that we just passed a bill, and it went into effect in September, that
Yeah.
requires mandatory storage of all guns that are not on our person, right? And so
Mhm.
now what they're doing is they're weaponizing doctors, teachers, and DHS, which is Child's Protective Services, to ask questions of the kids. Do your parents have guns in the home? Are they properly stored? And
You know
it's
who
a
this
it's a
reminds me of?
what?
The Gestapo. I mean, weren't they doing like having kid? I'm just gonna stay quiet. But
I don't know.
they went a
How do we
lot.
start talking about kids again? Let's talk about kids and guns.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
not get
So
so heavy. Let's
let,
talk
let's
about
talk.
fun stuff.
Let's. Oh, I want to talk about the Hawaii stuff.
Okay.
I think you. Yeah. How did that Hawaii stuff get started? I think you did
S-
one.
we've gone there twice. So I met a friend at a conference, Christy Guzman and her husband Chemo, and some other friends
Hmm.
from Hawaii. I met them at a conference in Arizona in 2019, and then we just kept in contact. And so they had us out last July. Then we just got back in March. We went there and did classes with them, and it was a different culture. It was definitely like the kids are super good kids, and but they don't have any guns, and so this like it's a different. But there's a lot of people that are shot with BB guns there, like
Yeah.
they're because they don't have any access to education, and so that's what we were trying to do is to bring that the the education aspect to Hawaii, and we made a good impact, and I'm hoping that we continue to help them and get them up to speed there because it's really important. These states with high rates of restriction, like you guys need education, and the
Yeah.
fact
No,
that
for
the
sure.
politicians won't even give it a chance is it's really sad for the kids because the kids deserve an opportunity, whether you like it or don't like it. at least let them experience it, because if they
Man,
experience it, they're less likely to do something dumb.
they need any type of education. If it's learning how to clean or prep or use the rifle for hunting purposes, archery, they need to bring
Yeah,
all that stuff back
yeah,
because I remember I had woodshop and I used to love woodshop. And then after I finished, they took that stuff away, man. And it like you said, it sucks. I remember when I started, when I learned about BB guns, you know how I learned about BB guns? A Christmas story. That's
yes.
how I
Shoot,
learned
did you
about
shoot
BB
your eye out? Did you shoot your eye out?
guns. Yeah. No, I never did, but I
Good.
did. I remember what happened was that I had a lot of like, the Muppet Babies,
Hmm.
a lot of action figures of the Muppet Babies, and my
Uh huh.
cousins would get them all, line them up, and shoot their heads off, man.
Sweet. That's
I
awesome.
remember that. But I mean, it was. Another
Well,
one. One last question
yeah,
I have for you is about how do you do it, man? When you go to, because I see that you go like to certain schools, and I think you give out like certificates too and everything,
yeah.
right? Like explain one normal day in your program for kids. Like, is it a 1 day thing, or how? Explain to the people how that works.
So typically it's a 1 hour class. If we're doing like a kids firearm safety one class, and
Mm-hmm.
there's learning lessons throughout this class. So basically they show up. I meet them when I'm meeting the kids for the first time. It's very interesting. I'm actually testing the kids, and so what I'm doing is I'm looking for kids that when they meet an adult for the first time, are they really timid? Are they afraid? Are they going to give me a good eye contact? Are they going to shake my hand? And so I'm kind of gauging them from there. What their comfort level is, and what kind of teaching the parents have done. And then we start off. We start with the introduction, talk about it, and we always start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I love the
Oh,
Pledge of Allegiance. Every class we do the Pledge of Allegiance. From there, I start talking about what to do if they ever come across a gun, and how some stats for the parents that are really really important, and we talk about proper storage of the gun, and then we get into guns, and I'm actually handling guns, so I'm showing them a revolver, a semi-automatic handgun. I also bring in my AR-15 rifle, a bolt action rifle, lever action, and two shotguns, right? And so I'm handling them. I'm answering any kind of questions they might have. I'm also showing them how to properly load and unload the gun. Okay. The reason I do that is I want the kids to know how to do it, but I also want the parents to know how to do it, because if I do it incorrectly, the gun's still going to be loaded. That's how people get hurt or killed.
yeah.
Obviously, they gotta drop that magazine first, wrap the slide, and then from that, we talk about video games, video game violence. And there's some
Yeah.
interesting stats that I use there. For young minds like 5, 6, and 7 years old, video games are really really bad, and so I talk about that. And I'm not trying to reparent the kids. I'm just trying to show. Obviously, it opens them up to predators right now, because I've had kids that have been accessed through online play with these predators. So you got to be really careful there. And then we talk about anti-bullying as well, and so that's another component to what we do. And then we follow up. We award the certificates, and then I explain why we shake hands and look people in the eyes, and so it's a way to show strength, self confidence, also to be alert and aware of our surroundings. So it is different, depending on the culture. Obviously in Hawaii it was a little bit different, because the Japanese culture it's kind of a sign of respect to bow the head, and stuff like that. So this is all stuff that I've had to learn through this
Yeah.
process, and I don't have a manual. I'm kind of going and learning as I go, and I'm blessed to have some
Yeah.
really
Because
good people in my life that
in some cultures, I guess it's not polite to look at an adult in the eyes, I believe.
it is.
But
Yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah, yeah. So
So
but all in all, it's we do that, and then we also follow that up with stuff on the range, and we teach them how to shoot, and we're working on some teen classes right now, which is going to be talking about gun safety, civics. We're talking about civics with 16-year-olds, and how we need them to be educated voters and know what their vote means, right? And so that means vote for their 2A, and that's kind of our next thing that we're getting
Yeah.
into. So
So I was gonna tell you something. I ordered some
yeah.
stuff from Big Tech's Ordinance, right? I don't know if you heard of Big
Uh-huh.
Tech's Ordinance. They
Oh
sell
yeah, yeah,
gun
yeah.
parts and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
was really surprised and I thought was super cool is that when I got the package,
Yes, yes. I
so I
gotta
mean
I
this is not
gotta
my first one, but I mean this is dope. I like that, you know.
I
And then
I
I go ahead. Sorry.
go, go.
And then I was gonna ask you, right? I was gonna inform you also. If you ever do need anything, like the flags, right? The flags that you use, the 3D printing stuff. If you need dummy rounds, things like that, go ahead and reach out to me. I could do stuff for you, no cost, just to help out what you're doing. And also, I'm
That'd
pretty
be awesome.
sure we could probably find somebody that's way better CAD designer than me that could probably do like the logo or probably the name of your thing on the flags, or
Wow.
if you need maybe like something so you could for the stand, like so you could put, you know what I mean? So the like the rifle or whatever, if you need a, how they're
Yeah.
making these stands right now that go where the magazine goes, and then it could have the name of your thing and the foundation and everything. So I'll
Oh
try to
wow.
work out on something like that for you.
I would love that.
And
I
then,
would love that.
yeah, we'll talk about it. And I'm pretty sure people are willing to help because what you're doing is amazing. One
I
last
would lo-
question, and
yeah.
then we could kind of shoot the ish. I mean, we've already been doing it, but if you want or whatever, I
Yeah.
want to ask you, how do you get into the schools, man? How do you do that? Like, how do they allow, like, they let you go in with the guns and everything? How is that? How does it happen?
Well, I think it's important to have a good message. Fortunately, in my area, there's enough people to understand, what we're doing, that I can get board approval. Typically, if I want to go into school, I can send an email, and I can get, within a couple days I can get an answer. Now with what I'm trying to do to shift towards, the teenage kids, like these doors are starting to open up, and typically there's smaller classes. There are more kids that are going to be rural or a charter school or a private school, and but the parents see the value and the educators see the value of safety, and then we're able to come in there. And so now what I'm trying to do is just I'm trying, and I'm working on this next class, which is the teen class, excuse me, and
Yeah,
and so it's going to be geared towards civics. It's also going to be talking about teen suicide and teen suicide
yeah,
prevention, because that is, I mean, what our kids have gone through the last 2 years is unacceptable, and it's counterproductive to their development, and it's been very harmful. And so there's kids out there that are having a hard time, so we have to show them that there's people that care for them, and there are options for them, and we don't want them to take their lives. And so that's kind of
no,
another
yeah,
thing that we're going to go towards.
yeah. Don't if there's anybody watching out there that's having trouble with their life or anything like that, there's hotlines out there that you can reach out to. But if you don't want to reach out to a hotline, I'm here. I'll talk to you guys. You guys know my stuff. Talk to me. And I'm not a professional, but I'm a great listener. And
Absolutely.
you guys have an ear. Another
Absolutely.
thing is, I was thinking, right, because you told me you have a 3D printer, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so I was, if you need help setting that 3D printer up, man, I could probably help you. We could set it up some way, or I'll try to find somebody. I'll post it and see if somebody's close to your area that 3D prints and see if they could
Yeah.
help you. But what I
Okay.
was thinking is, since now you're gonna deal with teenagers, how cool would it be if you integrate your 3D printer and teach them how to print safety stuff? I mean, I would say maybe a whole 1022, but I mean, I don't think you could. I don't know about the legal aspect of it, but you could probably help them with printing out like safety flags, dummy rounds for
Yeah.
practicing, dummy magazines, things like that.
Well, and part
We
of it,
could
like
talk.
I've been thinking about this is doing a gun building class for the kids, right? Where we build a 1022. Obviously, my initial fear of this is obviously the upfront cost because I don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of money.
Correct.
But get the parents involved. They can buy the receiver, they can go through the background check, and then we have the
Yeah.
kids put everything together, right? And that was kind of a way for me to kind of stick it to the people that are trying to take. They don't understand that this is something that's so normal for us to build a gun, and
Hmm.
it's and the thing is, you and me, like if we do not make a stand right now for our children are not going to be able to understand this opportunity that they lost, right?
Correct.
And it's our job to give our kids this opportunity of freedom, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you're right. The children are the future. I like I said, my son, but I have a daughter also. Actually, they
Mhm.
were a year apart. So yeah, my
Mhm.
daughter is right now in high school,
Cool.
and I try to teach her as much as I can. I'm gonna try to take her shooting, uh, but yeah, man. Anything you need with 3D printing, I will be gladly to help you. I'll put it out there and let people know, see if we could figure out something for you. But I know for sure there's like I could print dummy rounds for you, flags. I'll get somebody if they could do your name, the foundation name on the flag, uh,
Amazing.
magazines. It's things that we could. Let me see. Hold on. I think I have something that I want to
those
show you near
those
me.
those magazine stands you talked about would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Those would be really helpful.
Oh yeah, man. We could do magazine, like simple magazine stands. Hold on. Look. Let me see. Where's
Yeah.
that at? Oh, look. Wow, wow. Check this out, man. This right here is a printed,
Wow. That's cool.
and it
Yeah.
functions, man. This functions. Look at the
Does it?
quality.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. This is a Glock mag. The creator of this mag is called Danny Meatball.
Uh-huh.
He's really good at CAD designing. He does a lot of mags. I actually the last episode of Sabr Prince 2A show was an interview with him. And then come out in PLA. He does a lot of good stuff too. The guy that was posting stuff right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he's a little bit more around your area. Not
Mhm.
super close to you, but he's up there. Um,
Cool.
and like I said, like there's a I will talk about it later on. I'll show you designs and stuff like that. But I'm willing to help, and at the moment I could probably help by doing that. Like if you need, like I said, dummy round. If you need more ammo boxes, I could help you with that too.
That would be
Um,
amazing.
anything you wanna say before we leave? I mean, if you want to leave, it's like 1 hour and 18 minutes. But yeah,
Well,
I mean, it
I
went
want
by
to
quick.
I want to thank you for the opportunity. I think it was a great conversation. It was something, learning about a culture which I really respect and appreciate you, standing, at the door to help protect our 2A rights, and so I appreciate your support and the kind words, and how you've helped kind of get our message out, because our message is getting lost, because they don't want to hear,
Yeah,
they
it
want the
is.
they want the body counts, unfortunately, and I'm not okay with that, and so we're
Nah.
just going to keep going, and I'm hoping that what happened with Twitter, that's going to help everyone, and it should be an even playing field. That's what I'm hoping for, and
Yeah,
I'm
you're
hoping
right.
that sets a precedence where it comes to other platforms as well.
Yeah,
But
and especially like me and you, man, we're like behind enemy lines. People don't understand that
you know,
the West Coast is crazy. But check out this hat. It says
build more guns.
build yes, and I don't know if you
Yes.
heard of this. of them. It's by JSD Supply. JSD
Mm,
Supply, I think they're out of Pennsylvania, and they're amazing, man. They help so much the toy community.
good.
He does a lot of what's it called, P80 kits. So he was doing a lot of P80 kits. You know his story, man. He actually got banned from a gun show, and
Oh,
guess
that
what this
guy.
man did?
That
Yes,
guy.
Jason. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And he ended up buying it, man. Buying the show he got kicked out of, and yeah. So yeah, man.
Now he's not
He's
kicked out, huh?
no, he's amazing. He's done so much for the community. And the
That's
thing is that
great.
I tell a lot of people, our community is so new, but a lot of us we're fighters and we care about the Second Amendment because we're that's our hobby, man. We're doing it. Jordan, yeah, Jordan is a great advocate, man. Jordan, he's amazing. They He actually got bombarded outside of one of his shows, and they ended up canceling his Instagram, bro. So I mean, we've been having issues with the media. A lot of us don't like talking to them because once you talk to the media, the way they cut your show. Luckily, I think
Absolutely.
they were filming, so he had his part, but they try to make it seem like it's dirty, man. It's a dirty game. So then
Yeah.
they're always deleting stuff. So we had people that were teaching you how to build the correct way, the P80s. Well, what these media people did were they were telling YouTube, why do you have this up there? They're showing people how, yeah, but they're showing people how to do it the correct way. I'm gonna tell you something real quick. A lot of people don't believe or don't understand that our community, we care so much about safety because we're testing the stuff that we're building. So you gotta understand, we don't want to be here telling you, hey man, how are
We
you
see missing
doing?
fingers.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
you know what I mean. We don't
Yeah.
want that. I mean, look, even in the regular gun community, what happened to Kentucky ballistics? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It sucks, but it happens. So we care so much about safety that we try our hardest to make sure that the stuff is running correctly, and that's what I try to tell people. We need to show our face more and let people know we are people behind these accounts. We're not just memes. We're not just trolls. I mean, some of us are trolls, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, whatever stuff you need, all your stuff is underneath. So it's your link tree, so people can find it through there. I'll help you out. We'll talk about it in a little bit. There's a lot of people that are willing to help, especially anybody that's pro 2A, especially what you're doing for the kids is amazing, man.
Thank you. No, I'm just. I mean, he's in charge, man. I'm just the messenger. He's controlling the
Yeah,
ship,
no.
and I'm it keeps opening doors and meeting. I get to meet people like you, and it's amazing. So we're gonna keep going.
Okay, another question is, if they donate to you guys, it's a tax deduction, right?
It
Or
is.
explain how that works.
Yeah, so we're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and so we're no, we're education, right? So and all the money stays in our program, right? So I do not draw a salary. I do this as a volunteer because it's something that's important to me, and I've been very blessed along the way because I know that if I give back, it'll come back in some way, and so I'm very
Correct.
fortunate that I get the help from guys like you. But everything stays to reach more kids, and that's what it is, and to evolve and get to the next level, and hopefully we'll be able to go across the country and getting people involved along the way. If people are good with kids and know a lot about guns and are instructors, there's ways to get them involved where hopefully when we're ready we can have them teach what we do in their areas. So that's kind of our goal.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And if anybody needs anything or wants to talk to him, all his stuff is linked below. Um, there's also a link start so that you could go to the link tree and all his stuff is there. You guys can message him. He'll respond right away.
Yep.
I thought it was gonna take a little bit longer, but he said, "Let's go, let's do it." I appreciate you, man.
Yep.
Um, and If you watch this later on, Jordan, I'm sorry, but remember, I am dyslexic, so you know. All right, guys. Thank you for
Uh,
watching. Everything's linked below, and remember, shall not be infringed. Take care, man.
yeah. Thank you.
Everybody's saying good show. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching.